You don't need the world's permission to respond to the call of God. Upcoming, an example of a woman who is responding and making a difference in the lives of our community right now. And now, here's Reverend Sue.
Got joy in my soul. God is in control. I got Satan on my trail, but I'm singing all is well. He's attacking every day, but I'm watching while I pray. No matter the attack, I won't turn back.
Good evening. Welcome to Sunday Evening with Reverend Sue. Our guest to this evening is Nakisha Neal Jones. She is the director of the Black Women Thriving East of the River Centers, residents, and creates opportunity for quality jobs, career, and improved cancer care. I've been following Ms. Jones for quite some time. She has inspired, it just encouraged me to even do great things. She is a graduate. She's from Washington, D.C., and she's a graduate of Banneker High School here in Washington, D.C. She continued her education at Duke University, and she went to Georgetown University for her graduate work. I can say so much about her, but one other thing I would like to say is that she married a great, great husband, and she had the most fantastic, outstanding son. So we thank you, Mrs. Jones, for taking the time to be with us this evening to talk about a very serious topic where you are helping Black women in a community that so many people in Washington, D.C. do not know about, as well as throughout this country. So we thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I am happy to be here.
So I noticed that it's a new organization. And as an executive director, number one, can you tell us what is the east of the river? East of the river is south in Washington, because it's located in Washington, D.C. So what is the east of the river? What does that mean for people who have never been to Washington, D.C. or people living in Washington, D.C.?
Okay, awesome. Happy to share that. But I want to add the first part, which is Black Women Thriving, because I get the honor and privilege of saying that every day when I go to work. And to me, it feels like a promise and certainly a commitment to the work that we're doing. Yet east of the river, you know from being in the city that the city traditionally has been divided by two markers, two geographic markers: west of the park, meaning west of Rock Creek Park, which is primarily affluent, and east of the river, east of the Anacostia River in Washington, D.C., which traditionally has been under-resourced and marginalized, and every other negative thing has been said about our community.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm gonna go with this, and I'm not spending a lot of time, but I have to ask this question because I was telling a young man today that I was excited about having you as my guest, and the first thing he said, "Well, what happened to the Black men?" And because it's Black women. And so what about Black men in the east of the river?
We love Black men east of the river, and we'll continue to. Yet we're focusing on women because women are really central to their families, to their communities. They are supporting their own children, many times supporting children beyond their own, many times caring for people beyond their own households. And so we certainly believe that by supporting and focusing and helping women with their wellness, that it will extend to the whole community.
Mm-hmm. So when you're as an executive director, and congratulations, and tell me, what made you're so excited about this? You're excited about not just executive director and the work that you've been doing since I've known you. Like I said, I followed you for a while, reading about you and speaking to you, and I'm just finally got you on the show. what drive you to do this? Or tell me a little bit about your personal life, if you don't mind.
Mhm. Certainly, I do believe that this work and all of the work that I've been privileged to do is connected to my purpose. I was born in the Great Ward 8 in public housing and grew up in Ward 7 and have been almost a lifelong resident of Ward 7. So my family is working class background. My mom was a government secretary. My dad drove a cab, and there was a lot that we could see in our community visibly in terms of challenges with healthcare, challenges with access to education, challenges with substance abuse, challenges with affordable housing. And so those are experiences that are part of my own lived experience. And I do consider it quite an honor to be in this role because I get to help other people access some of the opportunities that I've been able to see beyond the community. Yet some of the gifts that I know are within this community because these are people who raised me and sowed into me. And so I definitely know that there are some real gifts, some wonderful leaders, and some wonderful experiences of community, even amidst the challenges.
This is an organization, and you doing a lot with Black women on the east of the river. Who are you working with? Where are you funded? I mean, how you managed to do all of this right here in Washington, D.C.?
So, again, another space where we are incredibly grateful. Our story is not a traditional story of a nonprofit. This work was seeded in 2019 by a foundation affiliated with Sibley Hospital, the Jane Bancroft Robinson Foundation. They decided that they wanted to be more intentional about their work. And they convened a group of women from the community who led organizations or worked in or had some close family ties to the community to really inform work around better cancer care and helping more Black women access health-related careers. They worked with this group of women and really seeded power. This group of women, they were making some of the decisions that are traditionally made by foundation boards and foundation staff. And so they brought this group to the table and really not only said, we want to hear your voices and that you matter, but they incorporated that into the work itself, the planning, and our implementation. So before I came on, I was hired about a year ago to build more structure around the organization itself. But we have currently like 4 active programs, and most of them were launched before I came on board by that group of women who were committed and who also had that lived experience of this community in Ward 7 and 8 and having experienced cancer and how to navigate those systems or how they felt frustration with being unable to navigate those systems. And on the workforce side as well, people who had tried and engaged in workforce and training programs. Some experiences were successful, many were not.
So going back to Washington again, trying to get people to know Washington, you're serving wards 7 and 8. Now that's the east of the river. But we also have people also have this thing about the west of the park. So with that in mind, trying to get the good picture of what's happening in Ward 7 and Ward 8, there is a tremendous need that you're saying, dealing with, just basic needs and healthcare for the women still today, 2024, right here in the nation capital. It's amazing that the need is there versus the west of the park, like 2 different worlds right here in the city. So do you feel that there's still a lack of equality when it comes to Black women
Mhm.
in Washington and throughout this country?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it's not limited. You know, in our community, there are a lot of people who are struggling, a number who are not, who are doing well economically as well. But that's not a story that we hear often.
Right.
Yet, unfortunately, because Black women, regardless of their economic background or status, have experienced some challenges with getting high quality healthcare. I think we've heard most about that in the maternal health space.
Yes.
With people like Serena Williams,
Mhm.
and even Beyonce, experiencing some challenges, even
Mhm.
though they have
Mhm.
great wealth. It can be, those examples can be found across the board in healthcare, where Black women feel like their providers do not listen to them, where they feel like they're, well, until very recently, there wasn't any cancer care that was being provided east of the river. With the coming of
Mm.
Cedar Hill, there will be more. And Whitman Walker is also providing some care. So
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
even a geographic barrier to being able to get to high quality care. Yet, unfortunately, for Black women, and it's not just in DC, these problems, these
Mhm.
challenges
Mhm.
persist throughout the healthcare system.
So you're also creating seats for Black women. When there's opportunity, you create a seats because you're preparing them for jobs. You're preparing them to when they go to the doctor, to even go to the doctor without fear and knowing that the doctors are there, and you have forced to go to communicate with them. Say, listen, I can get a second opinion and not be afraid to do that.
Mhm.
Just things like that that we take for granted.
Mhm.
That you, Miss Jones, is the leader of that, and I appreciate that. So, how do when you look at the job opportunity, the program? Tell me a little bit about what goes on in maybe one position, maybe a couple position within the city or perhaps in the surrounding area. What is the process? What happens there?
Mhm. So, thank you for asking about that. A lot of our work is focused on long-term change, meaning that we are looking to work with decision makers within systems about opening up like some of the access to those systems so that more people over time will be able to be successful. And so the way that we're doing this work, it is two-pronged. We understand that there have to be some resources in place to support people right now while the system is changing. And so on the workforce side, we have a scholarship program for Black women who are interested in health related careers. And health related for us is anything that can be done within a healthcare system. So you
Mm-hmm.
might be a doctor or a nurse, but you could
Mm-hmm.
uh, provide information technology services, or you could be in human resources, because those are good paying jobs within healthcare systems, and we want more people to be able to
Mm-hmm.
access them. The scholarship itself is non-traditional in a way, again, because we're listening to people with lived experience about what's needed. So it can be used for academic support, yet it can also be used for some of the barriers that people might have to
Mm-hmm.
completing an academic program. So things like childcare or transportation, or they might need a computer. There's also case management support, just to help people deal with life issues that might come up, that might impede their studies. And if we do this work well, what we envision is a community of Black women at all levels within healthcare who are not only getting resources from us, but they're sharing resources back with us, and they're supporting one another. And so that's the side where we're working with people. Yet we're also doing some partnering with healthcare systems to really elevate best practices for hiring, retaining, and helping Black women advance in health related careers. And we're raising some national best practices
Mhm.
as well as local best practices,
Mhm.
and we are getting our friends to influence their peers with some positive peer pressure to adopt more of these practices. Yet we also think it's good business. There are shortages in many spaces at many levels within healthcare, and one way to alleviate that is to ensure that the jobs themselves are jobs that really can support the employees with being successful and help those employers access local talent, which is
Mhm.
more likely to stay over time.
Okay, I'm thinking here is that so is it the word I should use underprivileged because I that's such a huge term to use. But if the person living east of the river and has a job, but not to the point that understand healthcare because sometimes I don't really understand all the things going on in healthcare. Would that person be qualified to be a part of your black women program?
Yeah, so for the scholarship program, we really right now, it's important for someone to have some idea of what they'd like to do, what they'd like to study.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to have it all together, but at least to know I'm interested in being a birth worker. Uh, and so, there are programs that we know that exist for birth workers, and we can help them to connect to that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so they should have a pretty good idea of what they want to do. Over time, we're going to add more programs for
I see.
women who are trying to decide and
Mm-hmm.
discover
Mm-hmm.
what is there in terms of health related careers, because we definitely see a need for that. Yet for this first phase, if they have an idea of what they want to do, that's really a good space for someone to come into the scholarship program and advance. And again, it's not like they have to have it all together, but just that
Right,
first,
right.
I'm really
Mm-hmm.
interested in this.
Mm-hmm. I like that having an idea. A while back, I was downtown and I was with my granddaughter, and she recognized a homeless person, the name. I said, "Well, how do you know him?" She said, "He has some of the followers on the YouTube." And I said, "Oh." And I went to him, and he had a book in his hand. He was selling his books. And I said, "How are you?" He said, "I'm fine." He said, "Oh," I said, "What?" I said, "What? You want to talk?" He said, "Yes." But one thing I would like to say is that as a homeless person, very few people come to you and say, "Where were you? What happened? What would not happen to you? But what do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do? What are your idea of doing things?" He said, "I've been a writer. I was a journalist. Things happened. I became homeless." And then someone encouraged him to write a book. He wrote the first book and then he wrote a second book. He made enough money to actually get a place to live. So I
Mhm.
like that when you ask them, because people have dreams and possibilities, and they want that, and things happen in life, but it's good that you ask them, what do you want to do? What do you feel like you want to do?
Mhm.
And most time people will tell you.
Absolutely. And not only asking them about participation in the program, but asking people with lived experience about how we should shape our programs. Those voices have always been included as a part of our advisory groups and boards. And we'll continue to center that lived experience in the work that we do. So it's critically important. We don't think that we can be successful without continually asking, what is
Mhm,
it that's needed? What is it that can make this experience better?
mhm,
And even in the process, creating connections and community as we do that. I mentioned earlier, like a number of people are definitely struggling. And we also realize to have the influence that we want to have and ultimately better care for Black women in healthcare.
mhm,
We have to work with women who are at all levels. And so our current scholarship recipients are women at all levels. They are women from various economic backgrounds. They are women who are pursuing various courses of education. They are women across ages, multi-generational, and we want to continue that because it's very important for us to reach that ultimate goal. Like certainly, like we want this group to have what we call family sustaining wages. It's even beyond the living wage. But like what do you need to really be able to sustain your family with the needs that you have and also some of the wants that you have as well. And we know this area is one of the most expensive in the country. And so that is really important for us to think that way and to structure our programs so that people are able to, you can't thrive if you're really worried about the day to day.
Our guest today is Nakisha Neal Jones. I know that you're a church woman. You believe in not just church, well, you believe in the Holy Spirit, you believe in God, strong believer in God. So thinking about churches, right? How could churches become connected with what you're doing? Not necessarily just here in Washington, D.C., but throughout. And we will get your contact in a few minutes. Tell us about the churches or religious organization, because women go to church and not all women are going through a lot at church. So how do you do that?
Yes, absolutely. What I talked about before with women being central to communities, churches are a huge part of that community as well. And many of us know and have had the experience of women who are, the backbone and sometimes the front and the side of church as well. And so what I would love for churches to do, so locally, there's the Black Women's Cancer Patient Bill of Rights information that's available on our website at thrivingeotr.org. And I am so excited. This information certainly has been tested through that initial group of women that we brought together. And more recently, we've done a number of focus groups to ask people what messages do we need to incorporate? How should it look? And we'll be doing some deeper community outreach this spring and summer. But the materials are there. The Cancer Patient Bill of Rights is there, as well as questions that someone can ask their doctor. And so I would ask our churches to partner in helping us spread that information. And if some have robust health ministries, some may not have the capacity to do so. Yet I would also ask our churches to think about what is something that we can do to encourage members to not only take care of their souls, I think we do a great job of that at church, but also to take care of these temples, these human bodies that we have as well. So that we're really able to do the work of purpose. So I would encourage churches to think about what they can do to encourage that physical health, as well as what the church can do to support in every community, not just east of the river in DC. In every community, there are people who are struggling. So I would also encourage our churches to think about what is something that they can do to support people who are struggling and commit to on a consistent basis as well.
Okay, and that's one of your plans going forward, right? You have plans going forward, so you're going to start communicating with more churches or religious organization.
Yeah, and they are engaged. There is an advisory board. We were a part of an event last summer. It's called the Places of Worship Advisory Board. They put on a big back to school event every year, and we were actually out there in 100 degrees, sharing information about the Cancer Patient Bill of Rights and getting insights from parents as they were getting school supplies for their kids. And so we've been connected to that group. There are others that we've been connected to through this work, and we will continue to deepen those relationships. We absolutely know that the churches are integral to communities and reaching more women who live in our communities.
What is we have a couple more minutes, is that give us a contact. How can we get in touch with you?
Awesome. Well, certainly the best way to get in contact with me is info at thriving, EOTR.org. Again, that's info at thriving, EOTR.org. And we would love to hear more about how you are interested in working with us, any questions that you might have, because this work has been about access, and there is more space at the table for more people who want to support this work.
Nakisha, we thank you so much for joining us. You're doing a lot, and you're making a difference in Washington, D.C. And I noticed throughout this country, and eventually from a global perspective. That's your purpose, and you mentioned that. And you have so much to do. And anything that we can do from Sunday Evening with Reverend Sue, we're right here to support you. So with our guests, we thank you for listening to Sunday Evening with Reverend Sue. Do something. Do something to make a difference in reference to there are people who need us. There are people who need health care. And we take it for granted. There are elderly people who need services. And our women need so much. And this East Little River was just one organization that is stepping up to the plate. So may God bless you and continue to be with you. And to our listeners, please, you know what to do. And I also have to add this again. Please vote. We'll talk to you later, Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Reverend Sue.
Say move on.